Hello, everybody. Welcome to therapy. I'm one of your hosts, Neva from the Neva J podcast, and
And I'm your co-host, Merrick.
Houdini. Merrick Houdini. Yes, so this is Merrick, as you know. So, today we will be making,
The social worker.
yes, which is what we are. We'll be making the social worker. And the social worker is literally anything you have in your house. Just mix that shit together.
Yes.
And make yourself a drink.
We chose this drink because, sorry about that. That's on my end. We chose to name this drink the social worker because we feel like a lot of times social work is like the catch-all and we get called or tasked with literally everything and anything. It's one thing I like about the job because it keeps it interesting. Like you never know what is going to be tasked to you or what you're going to be walking into. But it also can be annoying sometimes and frustrating when you have stuff that actually is social work related to deal with.
Yeah. And it's like the social worker in any setting is just like we used to at the hospital say we are the dumping ground. We're like the dumpster. Yeah. So anything anyone else does not want to deal with, it goes to the social worker. If the doctors don't want it, the nurse don't want to touch it, or like
the social worker.
Yeah. Or like now at the school, it's anything dealing with emotions. Like a kid starts crying, and instead of like being a human and saying what's wrong, why are you crying, it's like, oh, let's call the social worker because we're not humans and we don't have any of these qualities to just ask somebody what's wrong. But yeah, so basically it's like a dumping ground. So that's why the drink is whatever the hell you have at home, you put it together. So mine will be made with a little coconut rum, because that's what I had at home. Love the smell of coconut rum.
And mine is going to be made with the Pinnacle vodka that we used for another drink early on in our therapy series.
And then I'll be mixing it with a little pineapple juice.
And I am mixing it with pineapple as well.
Yeah, I guess we all were feeling a little tropical.
Yeah, I'm ready for, the sun to be shining and to be on a beach somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to mix it. I'm going to. Hits the spot.
Yes.
It's like when my dad makes a drink and he's like, I'm like, what's that good? Is it good?
It's right. It's not, yeah. Like even like when I'm like I cook something and then people go to eat it and it's like, it's like that's when you know it's good. When you get like that sound after, like, this is good. Like, okay.
I know it's good because I fucking cooked it. It better be. You don't have to make a sound. I know.
Start always making those sounds.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so yes, Merrick was telling me a story a while back and I just died laughing. And I feel like she should share it because it speaks volume to our job and what people think. It's like those memes, what people think I do, what my parents think I do, and what I actually do. And so it speaks volume to that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm kind of guessing at what story, because I have two in mind. But I could tell the other one later if we get to it. But I think this is the story you're referring to. I was working at the hospital. It was a weekend. So at the hospital I worked at, it's a pretty large like trauma center hospital. Like we have like kind of like I always tell people this, like it's kind of like Grey's Anatomy. Like it was a teaching hospital, so you had residents there, med students, and attending physicians. There's a pediatric hospital as well as an adult hospital, an ER, like a lot going on. So on the weekends, there was only one social worker scheduled to cover the entire hospital.
Yeah.
And it's rotating. So, it's your weekend whenever they assign it to you. So I was working a Saturday and in the hospital, like we still had pagers because like there's not good cell service in a hospital, you know, so we had beepers. Your beeper is literally going off the whole day. Like you can't even keep up with the beeps. And you're like writing the pager numbers down so you can call them back. It's crazy. So, you know, I'm trying to answer pages and one comes through, it's the ER. It's kind of like, oh gosh. Cause again, like you never know what's going to come in through the ER. At least like if I'm getting called by like ortho, I know they're going to need like, you know, they're going to need me to like get a wheelchair or like, I don't know, something related to ortho.
Get a wheelchair because they can't do that.
Yeah. Again, like you need a social work degree to do some of that stuff. No. But anyways, when the ER calls, you're like, oh no, like what could this be? So I call them back when I get to it and they're like, I was asked to call the social worker. We had a woman come in and the doctor needed to do a vaginal exam and the resident examined the wrong hole. And like we spoke to the woman and she seems to be okay, but you know, we just kind of want you to come down and like do damage control. So I like hung up the phone. I was like, are you kidding me? What on earth do you want me to do with this? So I was just like, I don't even like, sorry that the resident failed anatomy and physiology and like doesn't know where the vaginal opening is. I don't know. Like, so I, you know, did what any good experienced social worker would do. And I waited. I answered some other pages. I took care of some other stuff. And I eventually made my way down to the ER. And as I got there, the nurse showed me which room the woman was in. And I went to the room and she was gone. And I was like, oh, perfect. I had no idea what was going to come out of my mouth when I saw her anyways.
You're like, I'm sorry, ma'am, that he's a fucking idiot who doesn't know the difference between a vagina hole and a butthole. So I apologize for that.
Oh my God. Right? Like, I don't know. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of situations though, like walking into them as a social worker, like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Like, I literally just like let it like flow out. And that leads me to my next story that I'm going to share because I thought about telling this story last week when we talked about burnout because I feel like some of the maybe less appropriate things I say is when I'm high on that burnout scale that we talked about. So this is another situation we had at the hospital. This mother's child, it was in the children's hospital. This mother of this child, the girl had been in the hospital for several days, maybe like 10 days. And she was getting ready to be discharged though for home. And the mother was very upset because she found out that she had to pay for parking. And I don't blame her. Like, you have a kid in the hospital, the last thing you need to worry about is how much they're charging you to park your car. And in Westchester County, maybe we can edit that.
No, go on.
Okay.
Like we have that many listeners. Go on.
Okay. So parking is expensive and they charge some like ungodly amount to park your car there. Well, you have a kid sick in the hospital. So this mother was upset because she heard that she's gonna have to pay to get out. And she was like, I don't have the money. So the nurse was like, call the social worker, you know, because like we can handle that. They used to give us parking passes so we actually could handle that. But then the hospital took that away and literally like, do they want us to keep taking money out of our pockets? Like, so I went to the mother and she was very furious. And she was like, you know, I'm not going to be able to leave. Like, I know that we're being discharged today, but I'm telling you, I do not have the money to leave this parking lot. So just so you know, I'm either going to go through the barricade and break it, or I'm going to go up around to, you know, onto the curb, on the grass, and go around it. And I was like looking at her and I was like, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Go through that barricade.
And that was how I left it. Like, what was I going to do? So I left her. I walked back to the office and I had a shared office with a lot of, like a couple other medical social workers and nurse case managers. And I told them what happened. And they were like, oh my gosh, Merrick, you did not tell her you got to do what you got to do. She's going to be on the news and she's going to say, well, the social worker told me you got to do what you got to do. So it ended up that like security let her out. She didn't have to pay. And the next week she sent me a thank you card.
Yeah. Hey. I mean, seriously though, making people pay for hospital parking. Like, do you think they're at the hospital for shits and giggles?
Right.
Come
And
on.
like an ungodly amount. Like I want to say it was like $12 a day or something. You're there for 10 days. Like forget about it. Like
That's crazy.
you're gonna need to refinance your house.
Right? Take out a second mortgage. Sell your kid. Sell your
Yeah.
kidney.
Yeah.
But
He
yeah,
survived, but now you got to sell him to pay
for
to get out
that,
of the
right?
hospital.
Oh, but yeah, I just know like it's a headache. Like working in settings, if you work in a setting where you're not like it's not a like clinical setting where, so if you're not surrounded by social workers and like an understanding of like this is what we do, if it's not in a mental health like type setting, it's a nightmare because you're always at the bottom of the pyramid. If you're in a medical setting, you're at the bottom of the pyramid. If you're in the educational setting, you're at the bottom of the pyramid. And it's literally anything that they
Because
don't
no one really understands what exactly you do and what exactly your role is.
right.
They
Because
just like
we
assume.
like, do we even understand what exactly we do and what exactly our role is? No, because we have morphed to do so many things and our role has been so many things that even like sometimes we're confused as to what is it that we do.
Right.
And
I
it's
think
like,
that word,
and it's like when you get in a setting where you're doing what it is that you do, you're like confused. You're like, oh, so I don't need to call this person and set up a cab ride or like whatever, you're like so lost. Like, oh, I don't need to
just
be
this.
Yeah, that's it. That's where it ends right here. Because I've done that in the past,
Right. And like I said in the beginning, like I've been at places of employment where you were amongst like other professions and no one really understood what you did, even yourself. And then I've been in places of employment like our job together in a counseling center. And we did work amongst other mental health professionals. And I was almost like bored in that setting because it was like just day in and day out, like the same thing. It was kind of like predictable. It was monotonous. And although sometimes I get annoyed or frustrated with the things that get thrown our way, it's like I need that uncertainty and that, And I think like as social workers, we're like expert problem solvers. Like it doesn't even matter what the problem is. Like
even though we can't solve our own problems.
No, that's different. That's different. That's why we help others to solve theirs. We can ignore ours.
But when I worked at the hospital, of course it's always the hospital, I remember like a doctor calling down a social worker and saying to me like, we need to discharge this patient, but she can't go home because like she doesn't have free childcare or something. It was like something like, I think it was her kids that were in the peds and it was the mom, and the mom was like, they needed to discharge the kids, but she's like, you can't discharge us because we don't have free childcare. And so the doctor called me down and I'm looking at him, I'm like, sir, what is it that you're wanting me to do here? Free childcare doesn't exist for anyone.
I know.
He's like, well, we need the bed and we need to discharge them. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, tell her I'll watch your children? Like, I don't know. Like, this is a societal issue. Like, this is beyond me. Like,
right.
But it's like, it ticks me off when they're all about like like the turnover. We need the bed. Like, let's get them out and move them in quickly and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know what miracles you're wanting me to work here. Like, I don't have anything.
I definitely got calls like exactly like that one. And the way that the doctors are so like matter of fact about it, like, this is what I need you to do. And they don't realize like that, like you said, like that's a societal issue. Like that's not going to be solved here today by me. Like, but they just say it in such a like, and she needs some free childcare. And oh, okay, here's my magical wand. Childcare.
Right. And it's, and the thing that, they never understood like self-determination.
Mm.
And I know like that's in our code of ethics. Like
Yes.
everyone has a right to self-determination. And doctors just really, and nurses just
Mhm.
really struggled with that. Like they're like,
This
this
skinny.
patient is not safe to go home. They don't have any like support at home. They're gonna go home and they're just gonna like not take care of themselves and land up right back here in the hospital. And I'm just like, they have the right to do that. If they have the right to go home and do that, like if that's how they want to live, like I can't force them otherwise. Like why can't you understand that? It's like, I don't know. Our code of ethics and theirs must not align because they don't get
Yeah.
it. But anywho, in honor of social work, March is social work month, and also
Yeah.
apparently I found out it's women's, like one of the weeks is women's week, and then it's also like secretary day one of the days, and then it's also like, isn't it like teachers?
We gotta
Teachers.
share our month with all these
I
people.
know. I'm like, it just never
Yeah.
ends. It's like so many other. It's like so many things
And it's like
in
mostly
that one.
women's professions. So it's like, who came up with this? A man? It's like,
Yeah,
let's
most
make
definitely.
let's make March social work month, because mostly women are social workers. And we'll celebrate teachers then and secretaries.
Yeah, because that's women's jobs, you know.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a man thing.
Yeah.
So in honor of that, oh, and listen to this. Like I was telling my husband the other day, I'm like, March is social work month, and I'm like, and we always get forgotten. No one ever does anything for us. So I'm like, I'm thinking of something to plan, like for us to, for me and my coworkers to plan to celebrate ourselves, you know. And he sent me this thing, and it said like, today is World Happy Husband Day.
Oh my God.
Like, I'm like, are you serious? I'm telling you, it's social work month in
I
March.
guess
This, and it was hilarious. Let me read. Like
okay.
and they had like a bunch of quotes. You're gonna die, Merrick. I was laughing so hard. And it said, okay, so it said, today is World Happy Husband Day. Let us keep 2 minutes silence and read some quotes of great personalities. And it said, the first quote is, after marriage, husband and wife become two sides of a coin. They just can't face each other, but still they stay together. And then the one says, by all means, marry if you get a good wife, you'll be happy. If you get a bad one, you'll become a philosopher. The other one says, wife inspires us to get us to great things and prevents us from achieving them.
I like that one.
Then it says, I had some words with my wife and she had some paragraphs with me.
It's so true.
Then it says, there's a way of transferring funds that is even faster than electronic banking. It's called marriage. Then it says, a good wife always forgives her husband when she's wrong. And it says, when you are in love, wonders happen. But once you get married, you wonder what happened. And the last one is, marriage is a beautiful forest where brave lions are killed by beautiful deer. I was laughing so hard. I'm like, that's hilarious. Oh gosh. But yeah, but in honor of Social Work Month, we have
Yeah.
some things up our sleeves. What is
Yeah.
it?
So here at, therapy, we want to honor ourselves and other social workers. So Neve and I got talking about, what that might look like. And we were thinking like, why don't we at the least have, fellow social workers on the show as, our guests. And then we also want to do a raffle to give away something in appreciation of a social worker who wins.
Yeah. So what we want to do, like each week we'll aim to have a different social worker on to just talk about like what field of social work they work in, and like just share some of the stories that they shared, like Merrick's story of the man finding the wrong hole, the doctor finding the wrong hole. And then we also want people to comment on therapy. Like, find us on YouTube. We're under the Neva J podcast, but it's therapy. And you could comment, subscribe first, subscribe, and then
follow.
Yeah, follow, and then you can comment and share a story with us of if you are a social worker, share like an interesting story like the one we just shared. If you're not a social worker, share a story about your experience with working with a social worker. And so anyone like who shares a story, we will enter your name into a drawing. And then at the end of the month, because March is social work month, so at the end of March, we'll enter your name into a drawing, and then you can win. And we're still trying to figure out what it is you're going to win.
But something useful. It's not going to be like, oh, a trinket.
Thanks. Or a book. Yeah.
Like, this is useful.
Yeah, it'll be something you can use, and you can win a prize. So please comment.
Like.
Yeah. Like.
Follow, subscribe.
Yes, all of the above. And please, please tune in and listen to our social workers, because we are the backbone of America.
It's true, though.
I'd like to believe we are the backbone of America.
This drink is really good.
Huh?
This drink is really good, and unintentionally, but it went so well. I was like going through one of my drawers where I have a bunch of like different stuff. I saw this like, it's not even like a perfume, but it's like a rollerball scent, and it's of salted air, and it smells like the beach. And so like with the beach smell and this drink.
So do you sniff?
It's really putting me there.
And take a sip?
It's really putting me there.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, please join us, social workers. And even like in your comment, if you don't like want to type out a full story, you can even like make a little video. Make a little video of the story, and if we can figure technology out, we'll even do it. We'll show your little video of you talking about whatever it is that experience was for you. You know? So thank you for tuning in.
See you next time.
Another episode of therapy. Have a great day.